creepy horror stories.
The painting arrived at St. Bartholomew's Cathedral in the dead of night. No name accompanied the crate. No records of donation or purchase existed. The wooden box had simply appeared on the cathedral's doorstep, wrapped in burlap and twine, like an offering left at the feet of an unknowing god. Father Elias found it that morning, just as the sun cast its first golden rays through the stained glass windows. A junior priest had nearly tripped over the crate on his way to morning prayers, prompting the elder priest to investigate. With careful hands, Elias unwrapped the package, revealing a painting of the enthroned Madonna and Child. Despite the dust coating the edges of the frame, the colors were as rich and vibrant as if they had been painted yesterday. The Madonna's solemn face seemed heavier than most renditions, her dark Byzantine eyes staring not out but through. It was the kind of gaze that lingered long after one had turned away, burrowing into the mind like a splinter of something ancient and unshakable. The Christ child in her lap was just as unsettling, his expression not one of benevolence, but something closer to knowing amusement. "Who would leave this here?" Elias murmured, running a hand along the thick wooden frame. The inscription at the bottom, barely visible beneath the grime, read, "Mater Dolorosa in Aeternum, the Mother of Sorrows, Eternal." Something about the painting made his stomach turn, but he shook off the feeling. Art had always carried power, and surely a piece this old had seen its share of sorrow. St. Bartholomew's had been struggling for years, its congregation dwindling. Perhaps the unveiling of a lost religious artifact could bring renewed interest. That night, as Elias locked the cathedral doors, a whisper brushed against his ear. It was so soft, so fleeting, that he first thought it the wind filtering through the high stone rafters. But there was no breeze, and the voice, unmistakably, was a woman's.
"He sees you."
Elias turned sharply, his heart hammering against his ribs, but there was no one there, just the painting, looming over the altar where he had propped it up for cleaning. The Virgin's eyes seemed darker in the dim candlelight. He left the church quickly that night. The next day, the whispers began in earnest. At first, they were barely perceptible, like prayers murmured from lips that never quite moved. The junior priest noticed them first, mentioning to Elias, in hushed tones, that they heard something whenever they passed the Madonna, soft voices, chanting. But the moment they stopped to listen, the sound would vanish. Then came the child. Little Thomas was the son of a devoted parishioner, a quiet boy of 7 who often sat in the front pews, staring at the saints depicted in stained glass. The morning after the painting was displayed, his mother found him in bed, stiff and cold, his eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. His skin had turned a pallid gray, as if all warmth had been drained from him. His mother swore she had heard him whispering to someone in the dark the night before, someone who answered back. After Thomas's death, the whispers in the church became louder. Sometimes they were gentle, coaxing, a woman's voice murmuring in lilting Latin. Other times they were guttural, low, almost inhuman. The junior priests began waking in the night, drenched in sweat, muttering prayers they didn't remember learning. The walls of the cathedral grew cold, the candles snuffing out one by one in the darkness. And the painting was changing. Elias was the first to notice it. The Virgin's sorrowful expression had deepened, her lips parted ever so slightly as if caught mid-whisper. The Christ child's gaze had shifted, his once soft eyes now sharpened, aware, amused. Frantic, Elias delved into the cathedral's archives, searching for any mention of the painting. What he found chilled him to his core. The artist, Brother Alphonse, had painted it in the year 1266 within the walls of a plague-ridden monastery. The records told of how the monks had died one by one, their last moments filled with visions of the Madonna calling them in their dreams. The final entry, written by a shaking, half-mad abbot, detailed how the last surviving monk had gouged out his own eyes after claiming the Madonna had blinked at him. Elias slammed the book shut, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He had to get rid of the painting, but it wasn't that simple. That night, as he attempted to take it down from the altar, a force held him in place. The air grew thick, suffocating, the weight of unseen hands pressing against his shoulders, his skull, his chest. The whispers crescendoed into a deafening chorus, and then she spoke. Her voice slithered through the dark, wet and rasping, both ancient and newborn.
Stay with me. Kneel before me. Worship me.
The last thing Elias saw before the world went black was the Virgin's mouth stretching into a slow, knowing smile. The following morning, the townspeople found St. Bartholomew's doors wide open. Every priest and nun lay prostrate before the painting, their bodies rigid, their eyes glassy, their lips moving in silent, ceaseless prayer. None of them ever moved again. The painting was removed, but no records exist of where it was taken. Some say it was burned, but others whisper that it still resides in an unknown chapel waiting for its next congregation. And if you ever come across an ancient Madonna and child painting, one with sorrowful eyes that seem too real, do not stare too long. She is watching, and she is waiting.